Now we head on to the modern management approaches, and these came along more so in the 1960s and 70s. And in this, the idea is that productivity is the common goal. And if you look at classical and human relations, then the method of achieving common goals, you would say, well, they kind of look at things two different ways. And most of them consider the effectiveness and the reaching of productivity. That's just a natural outcome of the methods that they use. But the modern approaches are a little bit different. One is the management by objectives, and there is considerable interaction between managers and individual employees. And then you have this idea of you have middle and senior level managers. They have to figure out the goals for each individual area of responsibility. So let's take, for instance, an advertising agency. The advertising agency has different departments. In those different individual areas, those departments, they are responsible for certain things. So you have a group that's, you have the salespeople. And so their responsibility is to go out and sell and collect information from particular clients. And then you have the creative elements of working with a client and what kind of advertising is expected, who do they want to reach. And you have to discern, well, okay, the art people are going to be doing this, the graphic designers are going to do this, the production individuals, the video people are going to be doing this. Who's going to be dealing with other elements of the campaign. There's a campaign manager, a client manager for that particular client. What are those objectives? Here we have this shared objective of achieving this for the client, and then each individual department has given objectives in order to achieve that total outcome that they have. You can find this, and just kind of like what I mentioned just a minute ago, management by objectives in the media business deals a lot with promotions, marketing, advertising, financial planning. And this particular method can also be useful across the board in any organization where you're trying to figure out, well, there's certain levels of completion. So you're in an organization and someone says, well, we need to do this. Well, the way you do it may not necessarily be the way someone else does it, but the outcome is the same. So you're allowing some level of employees to have some self-control over how the task is completed, as long as the end result is the result that everybody wants there to be there. There's also a systems approach to management. And in this particular approach, it's kind of a macro perspective. You look at your whole organization, and you look at the environment in which that organization operates. You're looking at activities involving inputs. Those inputs could be anything from capital to equipment to labor. You're looking at converting the inputs into some type of product, and then disseminating that output, those products, goods, and services that you have to offer. Now, one of the elements of the systems approach is that you must deal with external environments. Those external environments have an impact on how you as an organization reacts, and sometimes you don't have a lot of control over those external environments. And so this is very, I would say, similar to a lot of media organizations in that you operate within your own processes and procedures, but you also operate in an environment that can rapidly change. And so managers might not be able to always control the environment. They have to be aware of the environmental factors, and they have to plan for the loss of certain resources if the environment changes on them. And the environment could change through policy revisions, laws, and things like that. The environment could change through natural disasters and things like that. And in order for an organization to survive, you have to recognize that how you use your resources within your organization and external resources may determine what might happen to you. I'm going to give an example of broadcasters during Hurricane Katrina, and that was in 2005. So that's a while back, but it was a eye-opening lesson to all broadcasters when Katrina happened, because there was an external environment that was not conducive to providing information to the public, and managers had to scramble for resources, and even down to having enough gasoline in place to run generators in order to get broadcast out to the public. And that was a major challenge, and so the environment wasn't conducive. The manager had to think in those terms, and Katrina really changed the way broadcasters operate because they began to recognize that broadcasters typically will be the ones that people turn to in cases of natural disaster. And so you have to have the resources in place or available to receive in order to do your job of getting information out to help the public. And so that was a real lesson learned. There's also another perspective within the systems approach, and it's dealing with the resources. And I've kind of already talked about this, but other elements also relate to the changing environment within the media industry. And when we've looked at the audience changes and everything like that, there's a massive amount of consolidations, of acquisitions, of trying to figure out how to diversify your product through social media, and also how to pull in different organizations that exist out there that you may need in order to exist. And so managers have to be watching for that and the capability of becoming maybe larger in order to more successfully achieve the goals that you have. Media industry really doesn't operate anywhere in isolation, because we're in a much bigger system. We have to deal with political aspects. We have to deal with the economy. When the economy tanks, what does the media do? And you've seen this in some organizations. They pull back. They make cuts. And that's why you, as a manager, someone who maybe wants to start their own business, you have to think in terms of, can I survive all of these external factors? Do I have the resources to survive? You have to be good at interpreting, and that's where the economist comes in. Somebody who can predict what might be happening into the future. And oftentimes companies will go upon what their economists, the people that they employ, are suggesting is going to happen in the markets, let's say, or anything like that. There's also another modern management type approach, and that's the total quality approach to management. And you might basically suggest that that's a series of approaches to emphasize quality in the organization, especially regarding how you produce the product, and whether you're serving external or internal customers. And oftentimes, that is, people will adopt quality control procedures and strategies to reverse negative images associated with poor quality products. You can look at the auto industry and see that those individuals have put some things in place to try to improve quality, and yet there's still recalls. And the methods in which they use to get consumers to trust them again has been an intriguing element in the process of them coming back, you might say. In the media, the total quality management comes down to, do you have quality products? Do you have quality graphics? Do you have quality news? Do you have quality advertising? Do you have a quality message that gets out to the public that makes a difference for that organization that you're in, or the organization that you're helping to be in? We also have strategic management, and in this particular case, it boils down basically to strategic planning, and that is looking at the external and internal environments and looking at the individual strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, and that's the SWOT analysis. And we'll be talking a lot more about the SWOT analysis in the future, but it comes down to, how are we going to create a plan that best gets us to where we want to go? And an organization without goals and plans is probably not going very far. So you got to have an end sight. Say, well, I want to be able to achieve this by this certain time. And so Michael Porter wrote 2 different books back in the 80s, Competitive Strategy and Competitive Advantages. And you're all about that as a manager. And you're wanting to make sure that you're able to achieve your goals. And most of the time you're going to have a strategic plan in place that allows you to do that. Even this university has a strategic plan. We go through a planning process. We try to get all the entities involved so that everybody's on board with this plan. And then we move from approaches, management approaches, to just talking about a key element in management, and that is leadership. Leadership defined. Are you a leader? Some people are not leaders. Some people aren't leaders right now, but will become leaders as your confidence increases. And there are different kinds of leaders that are out there. There's transactional leadership, and this basically suggests that people are going to be motivated by rewards and punishment, and that it's always better when there's a chain of command in place. Most of the time, the transactional leaders will make sure that people know, these are the rewards, these are the punishments, or these are the things that are going to happen if you don't do your job the right way. And then you have transformational leaders. And I would hope that the majority of you will be what I would call transformational leaders. Those individuals that look more at the vision, the passion, and look at reaching all the things that you might hope to be. And that transformational leader often will get people behind them, and they'll say, yes, we can do this, we can achieve this. Managers who are brought into a company find this to be very, very difficult to get people to follow them. And you have to have followers as leaders. And so you have to have a method of getting individuals to buy in to you, and a transformational leader is one of those individuals that does that. And then the characteristics of a good manager. People who are good managers know how to select the right talent. They know how to define clear expectations. This is what's expected of you. They know how to focus on an individual's strengths and help them achieve and be motivated to use those strengths for the greater good of the organization. And if you have these characteristics, then your organization is going to do well. So, you've been introduced to a variety of management models. These models are just models. And in our rapidly changing communication industry, you're going to find that not all of these models work, that you're probably going to have to borrow from a multitude of models. And that knowing these models, though, you should give you a greater understanding of the psyche of the employee, whether they're mid-level, they're upper-level management, or whether they're the custodian in your program. These individuals have to feel good about what they're doing. It's your job to reward them when reward is needed. It's your job not to punish. Let's use a different word. Let's say guide your employees to betterment. Guide your employees to betterment so that your organization can achieve the goals that they wish to achieve.